This is an excerpt of a webinar by Garrison Dental. Thank you to Garrison Dental for allowing us to post this excerpt. To see the full-length version, please contact www.garrisondental.com. All opinions are those of Straightsmile Solutions. We are an orthodontic consultancy company that helps general and pediatric dentists with their ortho cases and education. For help with a case, please visit www.straightsmilesolutions.com. Now, enjoy the show.
Okay, so we have to talk about perio, and I'm obviously not a periodontist, but I have a lot of periodontist friends. So one of the issues is like there's active perio, and then there's past perio. So first of all, is it an active disease? Going back to dental school 101. Is there BOPs? Is there signs of infection? Obviously, don't treat that patient. You need to get them cleaned up. And if you can't get them cleaned up, and I recommend doing a 1-month eval as well, proving that you have the active infection fixed up. Why? Because if there's ever a problem and it goes to a dental board or an insurance company, if you don't do that, you're going to get yourself in trouble. We want to keep this standard of care. Assuming that there's no active infection, but there's just attachment loss. Heck, I even have attachment loss. I don't know. I have great hygiene. I always have. Who knows? It happens. And I have a great bite, but sometimes it's just genetic, right? So you just need to make your movements slow and low and not too aggressive. So obviously I'm probably not going to expand the arches, and I'm probably not going to procline the teeth. So I'm going to use a lot of IPR, and that's cool because you shouldn't be afraid of IPR. I might use some sequential distalization, possible lower incisor extraction, but it's just a different philosophy and how you stage the case. And remember, the technicians at Invisalign ClearCorrect, they don't know, like, care about your patient's perio. So you need to tell them what you want to do.
Can you clarify if you said up to 2 millimeters of IPR can be done?
Or interproximal space or the whole arch? I know you don't know that answer, Kendall, but okay.
Yeah.
So that will definitely be covered in our IPR lecture in May. But if you do the math, okay, assuming your patient has all their teeth from 7 to 7, from second molar to second molar in, is not missing any premolars. If you count all the interproximal spaces, I believe, if I'm doing this right, there's 11, okay? And I will do, a lot of it depends. Again, don't let the technician stage your IPR. You need to think about this. So obviously I'm gonna look at the x-ray and look at the shape of the teeth. I mean, if they're super skinny incisors like this, I'm not doing IPR on them. I might do it on the back teeth, right? So I don't want my patient to have all the protective enamel taken away. So you need to play dentist and advise the technicians where you want your IPR. Now, I'm not as familiar with ClearCorrect recently because I haven't done a lot of cases, but I know in Invisalign, when I submit a case, they have a section about IPR. Do I want mostly or probably, as needed, or none? So I actually take the time to think about this. It's a perio patient. Yes, I want primarily IPR, or I want none. This is a kid, right? Or if it's like a middle-aged person and I could go either way, I'll say as needed. If you guys need it, put it in. But they segment it. They say like anterior and posterior. So I'm going to look at the shape of the teeth, and I'm going to look at the x-rays and say, this patient I want posterior IPR, or this patient I want anterior IPR. Or if I know I need a heck of a lot of IPR, I'll mark both. So just think about it,
All right, next question is, how does SureSmile compare to Invisalign and ClearCorrect?
I hate to give myself. Okay, I got to be careful because I tell you, I get a lot of hate mail whenever I put down an aligner company, and I don't work for any of them, so I really personally don't care. I have very thick skin. But I personally have never done a case, but I have a lot of personal clients that do use it. So matter of fact, I was just on it like an hour ago. Personally, I hate their dashboard. I think it's clunky. I don't know how to use it. It confuses me. I can't find anything. I have no idea how to use it. And someone keeps showing me. It's just a mess. So the dashboard is, the outcomes are fine. I mean, I like the, SureSmile is owned by Dentsply. Dentsply owns Raintree Essex. So the plastic is Essex brand, which is not bad. It's not my favorite. I have more favorites. I think they're more comfortable. I think they're more efficient. So I don't think the plastic is as good. I like the trim, and the treatment plans are okay. You can get bite turbos on SureSmile if you ask. It'll never come unless you ask. As a matter of fact, I just saw a case that had them, so I know you can do it. They have attachments. So, I mean, it's okay. I would use it on like mild to moderate cases.
If you're starting out with aligners and you have to engage an orthodontist in the treatment plan, is that something that they're compensated for?
Well, it depends. So, I mean, if it's a private orthodontist like myself or one of like hundreds of others, if you literally Google Clin Check help, you're going to see like hundreds of Google. I mean, I think I started doing this officially like 8-9 years ago and putting myself up on the web, but there's a lot of people that do it, you know. You just have to watch out because some people only do Invisalign. Some people will never explain things to you. Some people will make a video and explain it and send it. So it's either synchronous or asynchronous. You need to find out what your learning style is. Invisalign does have orthodontists called Invisalign Pro that they will pair you with. However, it's hit or miss on the quality. I've had some that were just absolutely incredible because I mean, I've played general dentist and sat through it, and some that were just, so you're not gonna know, right? So I mean, their goal is to sell the case, right? If you pick an independent orthodontist, their goal is to give you a good treatment plan and make sure that you're doing things right. So I mean, yeah, obviously you're gonna have to pay someone to do that.
What is OMT?
Oh, oral myofunctional therapy. So it's basically physical therapy for your mouth and tongue for the most part to eliminate habits, tongue thrust, help with airway issues, tongue tie things, stuff like that. And I have a whole playlist on that. Ping me if you want it.
What was the difference between comprehensive and assist?
Sure, that's a great question. And I have videos that explain that more in detail. Assist is not even available for orthodontists, so that tells you something. It started a very, very long time ago before Invisalign Pro, where they were supposed to have you checking in at certain workflows where you had to retake a scanner impression and photos just to make sure you're staying on track. And they were supposed to help you out with the cases. The problem is that you're paying more for the case than you would for comprehensive. It's only like $100 more, I think, and you have less features available. And it's like a hassle, you know, because you have to check in every, you know, I mean, granted, if you're working with an orthodontist, you're still going to check in, but you're not going to have to bring your patient back in, you know what I mean, to get them rescanned, take new photos. So patients hate Assist. As a matter of fact, I have a patient-facing Facebook group. Sorry, dentists are not allowed unless you're on the team, but I have a couple thousand consumers that it's just like a support group where they can ping ideas. And that's like one of the number one complaints is my doctor's doing Assist. That means my doctor's not educated. It's on the bag, and it's bad for you to do Assist. Patients don't like it because it's clunky and there's a lot of like, it's slow. And also they don't trust you when you do Assist. So I wouldn't recommend it. And it costs you more. So why would you do it?
What is your retention protocol after aligner therapy?
Oh goodness. Okay. I'm not even going to go into that because we could literally do a 2-hour lecture just on that. There is no protocol. Every patient is unique. You have to think about where they started, what their needs are, what their bite's like. So I have an entire playlist on that too. Let's just next. I'll send it to you if you want it. Just ping me. That literally probably should be the next lecture, either that or phase one. Yes.
Can you say series? We need to do series.
Series, yes. I love retainers, and you should really consider doing a retention subscription program. Huge profit, direct consumer is getting into it. So if you don't get into it before, I remember Invisalign just started it. So the sooner you get into this, it's so easy. You're not even moving teeth, it's just retainers. Easy. All you need is a scanner.
For general dentists, prescribing aligners for the comprehensive cases that would have gone GO, is there some resource for figuring out pricing for treatment?
Okay, wait. I think I got half. Can you read that one more time? You can read it fast, but I want to make sure I understand the question.
Yeah, so for your general dentists prescribing aligner treatment and for comprehensive cases that would have done GO, how can they figure out how they should be pricing that treatment?
I'm looking for my model. Okay, so there's a couple of things that are going on here. So comprehensive is a term that can be used in two different ways. So I think they're using it in two different ways. So we talk about in orthodontics, comprehensive means we're addressing all the needs, the bite and straightening the teeth. In Invisalign, they use the term comprehensive for one of their brands. So it's confusing. I think that's what they're talking about. I think you're talking about Invisalign GO, which is a sub-brand of the Invisalign model that's only available to general dentists. The thing I don't like about GO is, again, it only moves from premolar to premolar, which makes the arch forms weird and it makes bite problems. The cases look ugly to me. I've never seen a case I like that's GO. It's maybe a little bit cheaper, but you can never get it out. Once it's in Go, it's stuck. You can't upgrade. Like you can with Assist, you can upgrade to comprehensive. With Go, you're stuck. Once you start it, you have to pay for a brand new case in comprehensive, which is an additional $1,900. So I've just seen way too many doctors lose money on Go's because they just had junky results. So I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, just stick every case under comprehensive. At least you have all the features needed and 5 years to finish. It's not worth trying to save $400 and then have to pay $1,900 more.
Why do you carbon paper bite before treatment?
Articulating paper, because I want to double check the bite. Now, most patients, if they've never ever had orthodontics before, assuming there's no CRCO shift, they have nice even bite before they start. There's a lot of patients that are retreatment cases, and they might already have like Essex retainers at home, you know, like clear retainers at home. The problem is that they often trap some weird bites. So the scanner is not good at picking up articulation. It's junk. So just by taking that extra step before, with any scan or with any refinement or new case, and just double checking the bite and making sure your patient is in CR, it'll mean that you have the accurate representation of the initial bite, which will mean you actually get what you think you're getting in the Clincheck. So it takes 2 seconds. Trust me, it'll save you tons of time and heartache later.
Do you recall the default movement for SureSmile?
I don't think I even know it. So based on my vision, I double it with SureSmile. Double to 2.5. Matter of fact, I just did one today, and I just looked at it because my eyeballs can look at a movement and be like, that seems a little bit fast and unpredictable. So we usually do double it with SureSmile. Yeah, but you can ask them. I don't know. Good questions.
For bite ramps, do you put them on all the maxillary anteriors and then remove them 3 aligners from the end?
That's pretty much it. Depends. So if the patient has, let's say, ooh, hang on, I've got a model on my floor. Okay.
There's
So
stash all around you.
I know, I've got like stuff everywhere. My daughter was just laughing at my setup this morning. She goes, it looks like you're hoarding dental supplies. Okay, so for example, this patient has an overjet, right? So if I put, although Invisalign has different thicknesses of bite turbos, I don't think they have ones that are this thick, okay? So on this case, I'd probably start with the turbos on the 3s or upper canines. And then as I unraveled the crowding, well, I don't know that this case would unravel crowding because it's really class 2, but let's say we had crowding on the bottom, then I would tell them to move it to 2 to 2 or 7 through 10. And then I always take it off 2 to 3 aligners before the end. Otherwise, you'll be left with overjet and the bite will be funny. They will never do this unless you ask for it. It's just in my preferences.
Can general dentists prescribe aligners via teledentistry?
Of course, you can do whatever you want. So if direct-to-consumer aligner companies can do it, just you need to read your own dental practice act because there's a few states that have some funky rules. And so since the direct-to-consumer aligner companies came out, they started, a lot of them, California has a weird rule, Alabama has a weird rule, Georgia has a weird rule. So you need to read it and find out what the rules are. Sometimes, and some states don't care. So, and some states it might be illegal. I think Texas it might be illegal. So you need to read it, and they're always changing. So stay on top of it. Plenty of orthos do. So there's a lot that do. That a lot of them have their own brand that's separate, you know, which are obviously they're going to come in for the evaluation and a scan, but then they'll mail them, you know, and that's basically what Candid Pro is, and SmileDirectClub Partner Network, which they partner with dentists. So that's basically what they're doing. So they're skirting around the whole issue because they do have one in-office visit where they take x-rays and they do an actual exam. So that's how they get, but there's no attachments, there's no IPR or anything like that. So again, what are the movements we can do? Well, we can only do 2 movements. We can expand the arches and we can procline the incisors. So you need to pick the right case for that to see if that's okay.
For a patient who needs an occlusal guard after treatment, how would you recommend they wear the retainers versus the guard?
Ooh, okay. So that's a really good question. And because I'm an orthodontist, I don't do the occlusal guards. I'm going to refer that to the GP. So sometimes we'll say, well, first of all, occlusal guard depends on what you're doing it for. Are you doing like an anterior repositioning splint, or are you doing it for bruxing, or are you doing it for clenching? So there's 3 different reasons. It depends on what kind of occlusal guard. Usually, sometimes we'll do a bonded retainer, top and bottom. And then that way they can just make the guard to go over it. But usually that works pretty well. And a lot of the occlusal guards are basically thick retainers anyways. So, but then they can't wear the retainers during the day. So I think that works pretty well. That would probably be the best choice.
For a patient who has a crossbite or one side is posterior edge to edge, would you expand the arch with Invisalign?
Great question. So first of all, if the patient is still growing or maybe under age 18 in boys or under age 16 in girls, I'm going to do an expander first. And remember we talked about learning phase 1 ortho because you can take more cases if you learn the basics, and expanders are super, super easy. I'll send you the playlist. So easy, so fun, easiest thing. So love them. One of my favorite things. If it's an adult who's done growing and it's a single tooth or a dental crossbite, so this is where we need to know, is it a skeletal crossbite or a dental crossbite? Again, if you don't know, I got lots of videos about that. If it's a single tooth or multiple tooth dental crossbite, like let's say the 7 or the second molar's out, these teeth are out and these teeth are in, sure, I'll fix it. If the whole side is in, then I need to know if it has a CRCO shift. A lot of times if you just see a unilateral crossbite, it's actually a bilateral crossbite with a shift. So you need to try to get the patient into CR to see what it really is, because you wouldn't want to leave the patient in a funky shift, right? So there's a lot of things that go into it. So it's case dependent. So, but if it was a skeletal crossbite bilateral on an adult who's not growing, no, I'm going to leave the molars the way they are, because when you try to move them, weird things happen. So leave them and just move the other teeth around it.
If you don't want to do too much IPR, is sequential distalization a viable alternative?
As long as there's no impacted or erupted third molars, and the teeth are healthy enough to translate, you know, to move without getting root resorption. If you have short roots, nope, not a good idea. Healthy, you know, not really any perio. It's not, the other thing you have to keep in mind is whenever you do sequential distalization, it's a pretty dramatic movement, especially if the patient, let's say we did it on this patient, so this is the only model I have sitting around, class 2, div 2. You got to look at the patient's profile. That's the first thing I'm going to look at. And if we don't have a staff, you don't need it in that case. Just look at the E line. You know, if you don't know what an E line is, that's a #1 super easy tool. It's the line that goes from the tip of the nose to the chin, turn sideways. Your top lip should be about there. Bottom lip should be a millimeter or 2 behind. So if the lips are way behind that E line, you don't want to distalize, because you're going to dish in their profile. That's the worst, most aged look. Because as right now, super popular to have full profiles, full lips, right? We spend a lot of money to have nice lips. So why would I want to dish it, right? I don't want to dish it. I don't want to mess up. The patient's going to be mad. So you got to think about your mechanics. Remember, Invisalign ClearCorrect, the technicians, they don't know if they're messing up your patient's profile. You have to look at it and think, okay, if I'm moving the teeth back, how is this going to affect the top soft tissue? You don't always know, but you have some idea. So it's really great to have that conversation. Hey, let's get this mirror. Let's look at the mirror. Let's look at the side. How do you like your profile? What do you feel about your lips? Do you want them to go back? Do you want them to go forward? You know, I can't promise them that I'm going to make their lips fuller, but if they're super conscious about their lips being flat, we certainly don't want to make them worse.
Are you familiar with Dandy clear aligner cases?
Dandy was oh, right. Yes, I did a video on that. I went to the dental festival last October and I interviewed them, and I actually did a video, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's a pretty cool system. I don't know. I asked them to send me copies of their clear aligners and they never did. So I can't make any comment on their treatment plans, their clear aligners or anything, but I like the way that they implement the kind of rental of basically the scanners. So I think that's pretty cool what they're doing, but they had a really good pitch. They never followed up, and I contacted them many times. So that's a negative in my book if you don't follow up with me.
Is it
yeah,
possible
I do have a video on it.
Is it possible to correct midlines that are off by 4 millimeters with aligners?
Okay, so let's talk about midlines. So when you say midlines are off, are we talking about they're off with your face, or are they off? Is one arch off with the other arch, right? Is the bottom arch just dentally shifted, or are they all, because we don't know if this is a skeletal midline issue or is a dental midline issue is what I'm getting at. So I'm not trying to dodge the question. There's so many things that go into that thought, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you can shift a midline a heck of a lot. Like we said, just IPR alone, I can get 5 millimeters per arch. So sure, if it's a dental shift, we can definitely do it. And if there's
It
space
said
to move into, definitely.
someone wrote in and said it's 1 arch off.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's a lot. Sure, you can do that. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're willing, if there's no existing spaces, then you're gonna have to create space, which means IPR or sequential distalization probably.
Can you explain round tripping again?
Sure, and I have a video on that too. So it is a really, really hard concept to understand. So, okay, let's get this guy. Okay, we got this guy right here, right? We've got crowding. And we told Invisalign we wanna make them straight, okay? We told them that we wanted to use IPR to make them straight. What are they gonna do? Well, in their mind, they're like, oh, well, doctor's not gonna wanna do IPR on crooked teeth, so we're gonna straighten them first. We're gonna make the patient super buck teeth, you know, to try to straighten them. So the patient's gonna be like, ah. And then we're gonna prescribe the IPR later in the treatment plan. And then you can just close the space up, you know, with the aligner. So it's gonna take longer. But also, as we straighten them, you know, it's going to make the teeth more loose because we might be pushing the teeth to the limits of the buccal plate. If we push the roots and the teeth to the limits of the buccal plate, they may never survive. They might die. They could devitalize. I'll tell you personal story. My own teeth, since I had braces so many times, the first time I had braces in high school, I don't know what that, my dentist, my orthodontist was actually the head of the AAO. So this is like really bad now that I think about it. Family friend, supposedly the top orthodontist in the whole world. I don't know what he did to my teeth, but he devitalized the heck out of them. They have 0 roots. They're literally nubs. So, and I never saw the pre, but I remember it hurting like crazy. I don't know what mechanics he was doing. Clearly it was crazy rough. I remember they were giant wires, but he clearly devitalized my teeth. They died, and I've never had a cavity ever. It's just the ortho messed up my teeth. So that's part of the reason why I'm so fanatical about movements. Like, let's not do this to a person. You know what happened to me. So, and I can't even bite into an apple. My teeth are so loose, and I don't have perio. So